Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. I understand that Sunday morning in FOSDEM could be a little bit hard. Thank you very much for this well, thank you very much, Laura, and the people from the community that will invite us and accept this talk to present our topic about community management and data science, or sort of. So this is more or less the outline for the talk. I have plenty of slides, so probably I'm not going to work every one of them, and probably the demo is not going to work as usual, but don't worry, it just happens always in these things. But the idea is to do that introduction about me. Well, I don't say myself a community junkie. I don't have to be addicted to a lot of communities. I started the HP calculators computer club in London. I'm from Spain, that's even a chance for me. I've been in several Linux user groups in Spain, I've been in GG, I've been in a lot of things. And actually I'm working in a company, and one of the things we are doing is community metrics. That is a very interesting topic, and let's talk about it. I remember when I started the university, I'm from a little town in the north of Spain, and I came to Madrid to give a talk, and we made us a photo, the community we have there in that city, we made a photo with this guy. I don't know. Do you know him? Do you remember Jan? Okay. The young part of Debian. I met her, I met him, and I was like, oh my god. You're part of something bigger than you ever thought when you're in a little town. And then, this is for 2 years ago, I think the CLS in Portland, the Community Leadership Summit. You see a lot of communities just sharing the same problem, the same issue. So, first of all, I do a disclaimer. I'm not a computer scientist. So any of you probably know more than me about technology even. I know data science, so it's interesting to give a talk about data science in community management for technical communities. So it's going to be happy, right? It's going to be fun. So when we start talking about open communities and open development communities, usually people start to worry about things like, okay, what's a community? Probably many of us know about what's a community for us. It's a group of people. Well, I usually go to the Wikipedia. Wikipedia usually knows everything. So this is definition. And it was too long. So for me, there is something important. People who share something in common, things that are in common. So it's all about people. It's always about people. When we talk about communities, it's about how you manage or you talk with or you interact with people. People that share things, and specifically in technical communities, a lot of things, not only code, but discussions, meetings, everything is almost online, and transparent, so on, and something in common. Every community has a vision, sort of. Everybody in the community has its own goals. Probably you're in a community to learn the technology. Probably you're in a community because you want to improve the technology. But the community by itself has some kind of target. So that's the idea for and especially we are seeing communities in open source, I think in the before open source development, and now we are seeing this thing that is called the inner source, about creating communities inside companies to develop better innovation and better products. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's happening somewhere. And they are basically in 3 points: self-awareness, governance, and transparency. When I mean self-awareness, you need to know where you are in the community, or where the community is, or where the community is going on now, things like that. You need to know where are you reaching? What are the potential people you are reaching? Or who are the people that are doing the most activity? Things like that. So you start to wondering what's happening in my community, what's the distribution of my community, how far I am reaching my community, or the community. Governance, usually could be written, could be de facto, I don't know, but usually it's some kind of policy, RPC, what we discussed before, or things like that. But you usually are checking that you are following that policy. You need to follow what, and that you are also doing the community. And of course, transparency. And for me, transparency can be divided into 2 parts. First of all, transparency to the community. That means some kind of fairness. Because if you hide things to your community, you are going to have problems, big problems, high problems. You need to be transparent to third parties, because that generates trust. If you hide things to third parties, I promise you are going to have very big problems, because everything is going to, someone is going to show it up. I promise. That happens a lot. And then when these things start to worry, these roles appear, the community management. And this has been an interesting discussion last year in OSCON in London. It was, do the communities need to be managed? Because the word management needs something like you are going to do this because I say that. That's something very strong in a community of, well, okay, we are all the same in this community. So there are this discussion about what's the role of a community management, a community manager in the community. What they should be worried about. And when you are talking with community manager, usually the feeling you perceive is that they are worried about things like the health of the community, is the community active, is the community alive, doing the things that's supposed to be. Is the community productive? Not in the sense, okay, we are releasing something each 6 months, but within the policy it should be done. But I mean, is the community active in the sense that we are targeting this vision in the end? Are we going toward that? And is the community visible? That's for me one of the latest points. Probably not very much people worry about, but when you discuss with people in the JavaScript environment, how many JavaScript frameworks do you know? Probably there are more JavaScript frameworks than even human beings. But when you ask to the people which are the JavaScript frameworks you should use, they are going to name you 1, 2, 3, probably the 4 that they know because they have heard about it. If you ask for the 5th one, if there is someone told me because I saw in Twitter that this one is so amazing. So that's visibility. Probably there are even a better framework that nobody knows because it's not fully yet in the thing. I don't have a marketing campaign. So when you start wondering about what's going on in the communities, is when people start wondering about, okay, what's going on? I can measure that somewhere. And there are these quotes saying that, okay, to measure is to know. If you don't have data, you are someone with an opinion, or facts speak louder than opinions, things like that. Please, if you do any metrics, and we do metrics with care. Because if you do metrics, people are going to cheat the metrics. Are going to try to cheat the metrics. And probably that's one of the targets. Sometimes if I want people to close tickets, so I want to put something like a gamification about who is closing the most tickets. And people are going to start closing tickets, and 1 month later they're going to create even tickets to close it faster than this is one. So you have to remove that gamification from the community because you are creating about it. So okay, when you're talking about open development and you start thinking about analyzing these things and transparency, okay, you can start thinking about, okay, can we do open development analytics? Can we analyze what's going on the open development ecosystem? And it's clear for community managers to start to be like an neighbor. I usually use this approach of, okay, it's not that easy, but I need information. So, okay, my time is limited. What I should look at? Where are things happening? And when you see around, of course, everything is online. How many of you know something about Python? Please. How many of you know something about JavaScript? How many of you know REST APIs? So for you, if you are community managers, it's pretty simple. Okay, let's go to the, I don't know, probably Discourse or Stack Overflow. They have a nice API. Let's go ahead and create a script to start running what's in there. Yeah, but my problem is that, okay, my community is discussing Stack Overflow. I'm committing to GitHub and open issues in Jira and discussing in Slack. And all of them are data scientists. All of them are very different, so you start wasting 80% of your time. And this has been said for some community managers. I have been wasting 80% of my time doing something I'm not paid for. That is making scripts to gather data, not for taking decisions. That's hosting and here too, just to know what's happening now. I have to take decisions based on the data that I have, the feeling I have with the community. So there are several interesting approaches here. And just to name some of you, how many of you know about OpenHub? OpenHub? Okay, there's a few of you. Well, Stack Overflow has even down metrics that publish regularly. Stackalytics is a solution that is used in OpenStack, for example. BitTorrent, GitHub Archive. Well, yesterday I don't know if it's in the room. I was talking with Felipe Honfa, that is doing some Google BigQuery analysis on GitHub. And people is using that as something okay, interesting, but you need to know about BigQuery and things like that. Well, GitHub even has an API BigQuery. But you are still looking only at part of the big picture, right? You go there, it's okay, Stack Overflow, OpenHub is on Git, Stackalytics. So, well, this is FOSDEM, so this is to talk about open source. Another solution that we could try, that is Grimoire Lab. It's an open source toolkit to analyze open source development. Well, it's generally can be used for analyzing any software development, but in general, you can track information from almost any data source using open development. But there's the URL. You can go there. There's some documentation. And the idea for the talk, I don't have time at the end of the talk to give a little demo of it. But basically, I'm not going to bore you with the details of the architecture. But I'm going to give a big overview. Is you get out of data sources, right? I'll explain later. Before, sorry. You get a config file about, okay, this is where my community is defined. This is my Git repository. This is the Git app it's using. This is Stack Overflow. This is one tag. This is the mailing list. These are, I don't know, probably discourse because I have set up a discourse for it. And everything is through a config file in the system. And then it produces things like dashboards. You have a API, a REST API you can query to ask things, and can even produce web. That's something that is going on the development. I'm going to release this as soon as far as I know. Yeah, everything is open source. So one of the key points here is if you don't trust the people that is doing the analysis for you, you can download the system, run it by yourself, and see how it's going to be measured. And this is something that is quite important if you look what the tools are outside. You need to trust who is measuring your community. Here you can even measure by yourself and look at the code that is measuring your community. That's something quite different in several places. Well, just to brief the technology using UML, actually is out of Python. A little bit of Elasticsearch to store the data, and some Kibana to do visualization. To name some of the pieces of the architecture, you have Perceval for tracking information, Sorting Hat for making the magic of merging the identities across the different data sources. So you can profile a person or a company or organization across the whole community to know what's going on there, what they are doing. And then several things like, okay, predefined Kibana dashboard that you can import and use in your community, or even Kibiter, that is a fork of Kibana, we have contributed back to Kibana, to allow several things like menus and some improvements. So the idea is these are the data sources currently supported. So imagine the kind of things we can have from the community. Even things like Redmine. I was surprised yesterday many people asked about Redmine, or Fabricator, or Discourse, and so those more or less. Bugzilla is already supported, yeah. Sorry, I was in the middle of the and Jenkins has been added lately. So I am not going to enter the details in the features. If you know Kibana or Elasticsearch, you can imagine the kind of things you can do. The idea was to do a quick demo, so I am going to skip that for the finals if I can find, because I have plenty of things I would like to show about how to play with this and how kind of make it. But just to brief, starting is too easy. Okay, this is the geeky point to start. You know, git run Kibana, run Kibana, and you have everything running. But there is a tutorial you can follow step by step, and you can even have information about how to develop with Primorlab. We have a talk in the Python version later about how to use the tool for Python developers. You are more than welcome to join us. Well, this is one of the things I want to show later if I can, but it's actually a Kibana dashboard built from scratch. So it would take something like 20 minutes or no more than, or even less if you have all the data there. Some extras I would like to show, and these are, I think, the things you can think about when you're thinking about data science, because the idea is you want to have this running, playing with the data is so easy. You can do things like network analysis, for example. Do you know Kibana does this graph analysis that is copy-valid? Well, there is a open source plugin to allow you to visualize your community in this type of, well, this is the OpenFU project, as far as I know. And this is our own Git projects in GitHub. And you can get things like, for example, the nodes are the people working in the project. The size of the node is the number of commits they are doing. The blue boxes are the repositories they are working on. So you can see things like, okay, this repository is only maintained by, I can remember, I cannot read it, but it's only maintained by Santiago. You can see that Alvaro is doing a lot of things. He's committing here, there, and there. And for example, Daniel, our friend Daniel, is working almost alone in the panel. So okay, that's 5 minutes. Don't spend more than that. But maybe you need to talk to Alvaro. Okay, Alvaro, maybe you need to talk with Daniel instead of him to improve panels somehow. Or probably it's not in your domain knowledge domain, but you can move things faster. So this is the kind of things you can do. You can even arrange by colors, so that means, for example, organization, so you can see which organization is working with which organization in which repository and how far. We are talking about repositories, but you remember the resources, you can think about forums, you can think about IRC, things like that, okay? You can talk about dependency, and this is something that I was talking yesterday with, and someone told me, do you know the Pony factor? In Apache Software Foundation, they define the Pony factor, the people that do the 50% of the commits in an organization or in a project. Okay, it's a number and it has a very nice formula. Okay, you can see, when you draw who is doing the 50% of the commits in a period of time on the whole project, you can query Kibana easily and say, okay, I should talk with this guy or with these people. Okay, in this case, Pony factor is 1, so that project, someone is maintaining something like 50% is doing the 50% of the commit. Well, this is the only model, the typical thing of who is doing the 80% of the activity, who is doing the 15% of the activity, who is doing the 5% of the activity. Or the elephant factor, but in Tertia we are very innovative in names. So if there is a Pony factor, there should be an elephant factor, the number of companies doing the 50% of the commits or the contribution in a project. And that's something that could be measured, and you can see the names, and you can see the evolution. And now we have also... That's right. Ponies, people, elephants are companies. Yes, mass factor I think is something like 75 or something like that people. You need to click in a bus, something like that. The Vitergia Zapata factor is when you look at the code that actually is in your... Actually now, which code is there and who are the authors of that code? Which is the number of people that is owning the 50% of that code. In the case of Linux kernel, it's around 200 people. The actual code in Linux kernel, 50% of the code is from 200 people. That means that out of people involved there. When you look at the companies, and that's the United Fruit Company factor, it's around 10 companies. Now, it's the same thing like Pony and Elephant. It came to the nowadays code. One of the things again about Kibana and Elasticsearch and this technology is that you can see the evolution over time. So probably in the beginning, the Vitergia Zapata factor for the Linux kernel was 1. So you can see the evolution of how diverse has become in this project, in the actual code, and how code has been removed or not. Right? So you can see who are the key contributors there, and they are not. Well, you can see it online. Linux.io, you have a dashboard you can play with this. You can see things like geographical distribution and diversity of your community. And usually you rely on data like, okay, in GitHub you have activity already there, someone knows where they are from, so you can see the diversity of pull requests and things like that. For example, Mozilla, they have this reps activities panel, or this reps site where they are storing where the events are happening and how are reaching community there. So you can see a lot of activity around assets, for example. But for example, when you are doing commits, some people configure their laptop to 0 time zone, but most of them are not doing now this pattern. And you can see, for example, the Mozilla commits by lines. You can even see the Mozilla authors by lines. And again, when you see the evolution over time, you can see things like, for example, when OpenStack started, was basically West Coast development. And 3 years later, you can see you were able to see how these parts from Asia, China, India start to grow up. So you can see something is happening there. So if I am community manager, probably I should look there or organize an event there or something. And I have another quite easily. I don't need to publish survive. I don't need to make big calls. Just look at the data I already have in my community, right? Things like the demography. I think this is one of the most challenging things in community management, because sometimes when you're a community manager, you're thinking about how to engage people, how I get more people in my community. And usually the problem is not how to get more people. Well, that's a problem too, but the real problem, the real pain in this for many community managers is how I retain the people I already have in my community. I start organizing events, and 1 month later I see that nobody of the first event is coming back. What's happening there? And when you see, okay, you can see when they have done the first contribution, and you can see when they have done the last contribution. And you can even draw how someone that joined in this period, how many people start to left the community. And that's something that you can alert in terms of case. If someone that has done a contribution has not done a contribution during the last 3 months, probably I need to send an email or something. Okay, what's happening to you? Things like that. So be friendly. It's about people. Probably they are dealing with other issues and things like that. And when you're taking care about the people is going to thank you. Probably is going to be more engaged on that. Things that can be also done. Gender. Gender is going out of kind of friendly. We have published during the last year 3 analyses of gender technical contribution analysis to, I don't remember what, the Linux kernel, OpenStack, and several, Hello ecosystem also. And we have seen things very interesting. When we reach the analysis, we put a thing like, okay, it should be 50-50, for example. So target as well. And you start talking with companies and see what they are performing in this area. You see things like, okay, they are publishing things like, okay, my company has 30% of my people are women, for example. That's the case, I think, for Google, Dropbox, many of them. When we run the analysis for this project, we arrive to something very big gap. You see something like around 10%. Even when you consider that maybe some of them are committing using male names, probably a 20% gap to the industry is quite huge. When you compare that to 50% in the world, there is a big gap. So something should be done. And when you put that in numbers, when you show that to these outreach programs and things like that, they start to think, okay, I make these numbers because I can know now who are the ones that are enjoying the community, joining the community, staying in the community, so I can gain more from there. I can learn from those people.
How do you know if someone on the internet is male or female?
Very interesting question. It's the most typical question in this part. There is an API you can query with a name, with a certain accuracy, gives you an answer about, okay, this name is male or female. The main issue is with Asian names, because in China I think you can use the same name for male and female. We have a Chinese guy in the company who usually asks, do you know? It's not possible. So, okay, in this case, when you have that list, you can ask even them, okay, we are doing this, are you interested in helping us in doing this somehow? So again, you are taking the community into account. Again, it's transparent. You can run the analysis. Things that you can even do is not related with performance in the project, are related with code review. Code review is one of the core, from my point of view, one of the core processes when you are open source development. You're doing open source development. You are talking with people and setting patch sets, pull requests, whatever tool they are using, Gerrit or GitHub. And sometimes people only worry about, hey, we have like 1,000 pull requests last week. Yeah, wow. How long does it take to get a set? What? Wow, we have 1,000. Yes, but how fast are you setting? Who are the code that is set faster? Which ones are the people that are sending more pull requests? And even worse, which ones are the people that have sent a pull request, you have said no, and they haven't, or probably things like, please improve the code, and never come back, because you are losing that community. Those are people that want to contribute to your project. And you are, now it's not aligned with my code of clean code or things like that. And you are losing them. They want to help you and you are not taking them into account because you are worried about, hey, we have 1,000 pull requests, right? So here you can measure things like how long does it take, who are the people that are making those pull requests that are set faster. You can even measure how long does it take in the reviewer to review the code, how long does it take in the submitter to send it again, how many iterations are needed to get the code accepted. So you can even say, okay, these people that are doing this good pull request, please, will you join my company? Please join my core reviewers people because we need help on core review, things like that. That's what we have. This is for the OpenReview one. So it's OpenReview now, it's not OpenReview. And you can see things when you are analyzing information from, remember, Stack Overflow making this to Jenkins. You can merge all the information there in a database. You can measure things like how long does it take to someone to open a user story in Jira, then open some issues, in Jira, then someone commits to those issues. Those commits are tested or reviewed through Gerrit, and then, okay, get accepted, deploy them in Jenkins, and then we have the product. So you can measure things like how long does it take from an idea in the user story to the deployment in Jenkins. That's something that when you have all these issues there.
Can you measure also the bugs? So the commits of the code and then correlations to how many bugs the person is generated?
There's testing research around that, and one of the people in the company has done some research about that. We can talk later about this because we have some thesis and research done and analysis. Yes?
That was interesting. Who are the people who actually the review? So could I also explain like the top 10 reviewers?
Yes, you can do that. That's something there's some of the dashboard we are putting. 10 minutes or I have to stop? Okay. I was just quick review about things you can actually measure, things how people are reviewing each other. It's fair review, even from companies. This is very interesting. This is, I remember what this is WebKit Pro Review Analysis, and the spots, the spots are the companies committing. Here you have the number of accepted reviews, and here are the number of iterations needed. Iterations per accepted. When you think about companies contributing to something like WebKit, for some companies that's the main product they are selling or basing their business on. So if you send a pull request there or a patch set, it's something that is related with my innovation and my business depends on this, and this can be accepted by the community of the project. So you can see things like someone was accepting more in less in more iterations needed, and someone was accepting faster. We can discuss about later because I know people involved in that. But you can read the paper here and you can see which company for the project at the end of this process and create their own WebKit version. Things like your issues management system. How is the process? You can even look at, okay, probably I have this very complex thing, and you can identify where bottlenecks are. Or the real process is going like, okay, need info, review, accept, things like that. Probably you can even work on improve your issue management system. And one of the things we are working as an idea lately, and it was supposed to be ready for FOSDEM, but there are other things ready for FOSDEM already, was this contributors panel. This idea of people, the observers or attendees going through meetups, Stack Overflow, join your Slack channel, probably then start to, okay, I would like to help, I have a technical background, why don't you go to probably Maxilla or Jira, you open an issue, oh, I've seen that this can be improved, okay, open an issue here. That requires time. Learning curve. How is it going? How long does it take? And probably if the technical skills are good enough, they're going to say, okay, I know how to solve this issue. I'm going to submit a patch because I have learned how you manage the code, so I'm going to submit a patch and then probably get accepted. There's the previous Orion model about the people who are the observer, participant, champion, and you are thinking about, I need to attract people to my community to do things like code. This is the typical contributors panel. The people that came from marketing and sales, this is what is called as marketing or sales funnel, how many people can you reach, and then who are the buyers, in this case, who is the people that for this process arrive to be a contributor. So you can learn where the people are coming from, how many people, how many times or interactions you need to do that, does it take, and that was all, if I remember well. But that was not all. You can test it live in CodeRun.io, and this is the real final. You can go to CodeRun.io and get an overview of 5 organizations in GitHub using only your GitHub. All of you have GitHub accounts. You can use your GitHub account to get it. And everything is licensed 100% open source, free open source. So that was all from my side. There's no time for demo, but I can do it later if you want.